most of the times when we hear certain individuals armed and dangerous, the majority of the times they don't ever make it back alive. That's the reality of it. So he being captured and still breathing is very good, interesting for him. I'm looking to see what comes out of it. I'm looking to see what murmurs, what noise comes out of the whole situation as well. But normally, when we hear armed and dangerous, the majority of the times they don't ever tend to make it back to the station of life. It's more likely a bounty on the person's head.
I love it. A bounty on the person's head. And I was reflecting on that too, Zico. And I said to myself, when I heard that he was alive, I said it might be the public, because all on social media and so on, people are saying, you know what, they're going to kill him, they're going to kill him, they're going to kill him. And probably that might have saved Bounty's life.
I
You know,
was even I was even studying it today, and I was like, this is before the news came out, and I was like, I think he needs to make a public appearance either to the police station with a lawyer, cameras on, showing himself coming into custody. Because trust me, and trust and believe, it's very very slim chances that he probably would have made it back before breathing.
yeah, yeah. And what about, I mean, him being in custody? You think he's gonna last?
I believe he will. If he moves smart, I do believe still that he has also other people in very high places that can help him maneuver and navigate the system where it would be safe where he's concerned. I think too many eyes is on. I don't think anybody will make a rash or harsh decision to try and silence him now that he's going to prison, because obviously that's going to open Pandora's box. So I think that people is going to be very careful how they interact with him going forward, or how they seek to get information out of him going forward.
Yes, yes, yes. And the big question people are asking, and they're hoping that he will speak, that he will talk. Do you think that that is going to happen?
In most situations like these, what tends to happen is that someone comes in and they give you a agreement, keep your mouth shut. If not, XYZ is going to happen, and you definitely don't want XYZ is going to happen. So they're going to give him an ultimatum, and it's going to put him in a corner. And depending where his loyalty or where he decides how free he wants to be, we will then know. But obviously, looking at the information, looking at the, what he was saying, especially on social media and what's not, and no, I believe that he has some cards to play as well. I believe that he has some cards in his back pocket that he can leverage, whether it's for a shorter time in terms of how much time he spends in prison, or maybe he walks right back up to the front door and just offers us something else.
Well, you're interesting. You talk about cards, and I'm here wondering what kind of cards.
Well, everybody know that that Bounty being in the streets a very, very, very long time. He's seen things, he's known things. Myself, who been part of that life not for as long as he was, and I've known some things, and I continue to know some things. So I know for a fact that he know how the organization works. He know how the flow of guns comes in and out of this country. He know the politics that happens behind the politics. He know what happens within the underground government as well. So trust me, he is very much aware. And if there's anybody that I know for sure that has cards to play, is this gentleman right here on the screen.
I mean, most definitely. We saw a video where he and some others were calling, and we can say it because we saw the video and we knew who the person was in the video. And the person who we see in the video is the Prime Minister of Barbados, and they were calling her General. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, is he going to reach out to General? Will General respond to him? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. We also saw this same gentleman who is in custody walking, going into Parliament, with his ticket. So he was invited into Parliament. That we know because it was by invitation only. So we know that he was invited. So the big question is, who is he going to call on? The people who invited him? Is it the Prime Minister who he was in the video with, and he was calling her General? And that's not that, we're not making this up. We saw it. That's the thing about it, that it's something that's seen. I don't know if Dave has that single video where we were trying to figure out when it was posted, Dave, and he was saying that They want him to take all the blame. If Dave would have that and put it up for us. But I think that yeah, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, play that one. Can't hear it. Let's see. Yeah, it's muted, Dave.
I blame me wrongfully, but my back bro, look at it, look. Bro, this so I can take all the blame. But you see me? Life live on, you see me? I want to say something that I don't want to say, right? Because you see me, I feel like foolish, but the team up and want plan for me whole thing. You see me, but I still here. Yeah, I want some words, man. I've been singing me too. I think me too cruel, but I want to talk it out,
He said he wanted to talk it out, and something he said there. He said that they think I'm foolish. They think I'm foolish.
The thing about go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
The thing about it is that what people don't know, especially on that level, when we're talking about people who you know for sure that govern certain areas, just how there's politics and how there is people being reshuffled in certain seats in government, the same thing also happened in the streets as well. And they can tell you right now, and they know for a fact that there's also a shift and a reshuffle in the streets hierarchy as well. So somebody have to be removed off the board so new players could play. And what tends to happen? What tends to happen majority of the times when certain information leaks or when certain things happen, there's definitely reshuffling. Somebody got to take the fall for it, and everybody's aware. And everybody who's on that level is aware.
Correct. Correct. Listen to me. I said to myself, well, since I've been here, what I've noticed is that there was one in St. Lucie. You remember that one?
Yep.
Right. That they call him Lord. I only call the Messiah Lord, but they call him Lord.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a Lord somebody, and he was apprehended, and so that was a couple years ago. And I was speaking to a young man, and he says, well, they don't have any more uses for him now, so he's gone, right? And here it is, the one who was down here in St. Philip, in this side of the area, the country. He's now apprehended. My big question is, what happened to that one in St. Michael that on Good Friday, he picked out his phone and he took up his phone. I don't know if Dave could find that. And he called the Prime Minister on his phone. Questions like that, I want to know what happened to that matter. What happened to that one? So it makes me wonder: is this? Are we watching here a state-sponsored, what I call like a turf war? Is this gang turf war then? Is one? These people said, well, we are what they call them. We are the nation. They call themselves a nation, right? Is it a nation they call themselves?
A government. It's called itself a government. Yeah.
Right. They are a government, they say. They said, we are the government. And these are the ones up there in St. Michael, right?
St. Michael, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, St. Michael area. And they call themselves a government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here we have a government within a government. Is it that government is going to be allowed to be the only one standing? Is that it? Is that what is playing here? We don't know, so we have to ask questions because we're not hearing anything about that particular one.
If anybody been paying attention in terms of how I went turf war, no, this is bigger than turf war. Turf war is for soldiers, and that is small stuff. This is surpassed that. This trust me, this is above that. I'm gonna show you if anybody been paying attention. If you've looked within the north of the island where we talk about St. Lucie, that been rectified, completely shut down. If you've looked now coming off of the St. Philip, St. John area, basically you could put all that into one area. This is where we're seeing going. Now you gotta look at the tongue area. Recently, the majority of the violence happened within the tongue area because that same government is now the strongest gang in Barbados. I mean, they say the strongest gang in terms of the recruitment of new individuals in terms of the power, in terms of resources, and in terms of their network. Is the biggest within Barbados currently. And with him out of the picture, it is now a monopoly. Is basically this particular. So if anybody be paying attention, just be a watch.
Just watch and see, because and you see, a lot of people, when they feel that they have the power of the state with them, they feel strong and mighty. I believe there was a time when as my opinion, based on looking on those videos, there was a time, could be, that Bounty felt empowered because he felt he had the government with him. You know, and now that is not so. As he said, everybody wants to put the blame on him, right? And they but now, and I've been asking my husband that since it started. I said, hold a minute, is this a state sponsored gang turf warfare, right? That is happening, where this government is going to be that somebody says not the legitimate government, right? Is going to be able to stand, because we're not hearing that government being coming up for anything, you know, with the police. We're not hearing anything. I don't know, but we're not hearing anything. I've been told that, you know, there's some people in high positions in the government that is godparents to, you know, to the big gang leader there, that they're God's son. You see, and all of these kinds of things that are going on, connecting to government. So what's happening, Zico, is that people will look at this and say, oh, they're cleaning up the country. They're cleaning up the country. But you have to understand, as Zico is saying, it's a switching and a centralizing of power.
Correct.
Any thoughts there?
Correct. And then what people also need to realize, like, especially even in terms of the ones who refuse to relinquish their power, and they're talking on the streets, on the street level, the ones who have refused to relinquish their power, there were arrests made, and then there were active shootings within certain neighborhoods, especially also as well within the town, who was not submitting or subjugating themselves to that particular government. You can look at the Nelson Street area, and then you can look at certain areas. If you want to talk Cape, other areas as well. Then you can also look at the Sergeant Street area, Sergeant Village, areas. And if anybody know the politics are going between the shootings of who been doing XYZ, it was basically the ones who refused to relinquish that power. And the reality of it is that war can only happen for so long. I mean, it is expensive, especially within the streets. War is very expensive. Any boss will tell you so, especially within the streets. Even for them, it is very expensive. Whether it's attorneys, whether it's getting more weapons, whether it's paying for lawyers, etc. So it's lawyers. So it can only happen for a period of time. So you've been seeing them in clusters. Cool clusters, cool clusters, cool. But I think going forward right now, we're going to see it diminish, especially when it comes to the gun violence within Barbados. And that is happening because I believe that people above them are now putting it in a way that it seems like we have in a control of the violent situation within Barbados, but really it's just that we put in certain people. It's like Game of Thrones. We put in certain people in place to take control, so it will lessen the turf wars within Barbados.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when it is being reported that people within government, you know, high places in government, is very, very connected to leaders in the St. Michael area. You know, and have, as I said, you know, they're connected by their God this and God son, God daughter mixed up in all of that. Then those people, a lot of times, they feel empowered, right? And they feel like they could do whatever they want to do. And so as I said, I see a state-sponsored gang turf warfare. While the government is saying we don't want any war, but you know, before there's an area that I want to touch, but before I get to that, Zico, did you realize or am I? I didn't research it, but I want to know if you saw it or if anybody has noticed it, that in the 10 days of Carifesta, we did not have a lot of crime, a lot of gun violence. Am I wrong in that? I was supposed to actually look
No,
at the
you're
numbers.
correct. You are correct. The situation, right, if anybody remembers correctly, the situations that happen right before, remember we talked about clusters, certain things happen in clusters, where the green light is then given to resolve certain situations in a timely manner because the war is expensive. All right. So it happens in clusters. If anybody remember, there was a cluster before Carifesta. Then I mentioned certain areas before who refused to relinquish power. They got taken off the board. They got taken off the board. And then the ones, then they fled. Some of the individuals who also lived in the Nelson Street area and the Tong area fled from Nelson Street into the Christchurch area. This was for a regrouping. This was so they could basically regroup and build in numbers. The head of our organization was killed. How he was killed, which is interesting. How he was killed off a bike. He was riding a bike. Him and a female, whoever remember, him and the females on the bike, and then they said he was then licked off the bike with the police. All right, this was the head. All right, so second in command came in. Second in command came in. So then the ones who fled from Nelson Street came into the Christchurch area, and then eventually then was the back and forth going on. Then you heard about the shootings in town, people on bikes. Then you saw some arrests happen. A lot of people from the Christchurch area was apprehended. Anyone from particular neighborhood in that Deacons area or anything like that? No. Christchurch area though, a lot of people was apprehended, right? They was taken off the streets in numbers. You saw 4 and 5, 6 of them walking through the courthouse on a day. Pay attention, people. Pay very close attention.
More in the mortar than the pestle, folks. It's not what you see. It is not what you see. There's a lot going on. Because I'm saying if it is that you're going to tell me that these guys who are shooting up, they are so conscious of country that they would say, oh, it's Carifesta, no shooting now. Or is there an unseen hand? Is there a hand that is really guiding these all of what's happening? Is it government directed? I'm asking straight. It's a general question, and we can ask question. Is it government directed? Why there was no? Go ahead.
And this is and this is a true story. This is not here and say this is something I know. This is something I was actually a part of. When one of the richest families in Barbados, they're not black, they're not white, and you just leave it as that. People can pick sense from nonsense. One of the richest families in Barbados. They hold meetings. This is gang activity meetings. So when you hear about certain gang bosses, eventually everybody's got to come to the table and have a meeting. You will be told that right now is not the time for that. You will be told from very powerful people that this is not the time for that. Everybody know the consequences of disobeying those rules. Everybody know the consequences of disobeying those rules. The reason why the pipeline into Barbados, whether it's drugs, whether it's guns, all come through about two to 3 people in very high places, 2 to 3 people. And then it comes down, then eventually distributed throughout. If those 2 to 3 people decide and tell you that it's a halt and see that violent thing cease, it cease. It cease. It operates like an actual government. If you understand and you look and you see, if people really understand, right, how everything links, people will be surprised. People will be surprised. No man decides, all right, cool, we can partner with guns for no reason because it's Carifesta, because it's strategic. It's strategic. There's no way going to want to kill you and because, oh yeah, tourists coming in, so let me just relax for a little bit and then afterwards we can resume. No, it's strategic. And when it's halt, it's halt. When it's green light, when it's green light. When it's red light, it's red light.
And the thing is that, someone sent me some information saying that they saw some of these bosses were at in the VIP section at Carifesta. So some of these same gang people, they were leaders. It is being said, that they were at Carifesta in the VIP section. Now, I didn't doubt that one bit. I didn't see it, but it's possible. I didn't see it because of what we have seen. And because I had recognized, because I'm very observant, that we didn't have that many shootings or barely had anything in Carifesta. So somebody gave an order that, listen here, stop all of this right now. And so it makes it really funny when we see people, the government is now saying, oh, we have this advisory on crime and we are going to solve this and we're cleaning up and there are many questions that we want to ask. Why did they just stop in Carifesta? Why? And what is happening right now, a serious question that I have to ask Zico is this. I'm from Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
And one of the areas that the gangs and the leaders were used very heavily, one of the ways they were used and the ways that they made a lot of money and they got a lot of weapons through this means was elections time. All right? So the gangs in Jamaica flourished during elections. That was back then, right?
Yeah.
Now it's different. But back then, our politics was very much connected with the gangs. Okay? And what I know of a fact here, and this is not the rest of the things where, some of the things we are thinking this might happen to him in jail and so on. A lot of other things that we say here, we know, we're just not calling names, right, Zico?
Yep.
And this is one of the things that I know of a fact, Zico. I know. And I'm not calling names because I can't. I leave that to that blog that is overseas, that she can call names, and we all need to work on this thing together. I'm happy when she can call names. I can't.
Exactly.
Right? But I can't call names. But do you know, Zico and Barbados, do you know the role that a person like Bounty would have played in elections, in previous elections? Barbados, do you understand the role? And don't come and tell me that I'm on here speculating and I'm making up. I am telling you facts. This man, right? And not just, I'm talking about leaders, okay? The role that they play in elections. And that's why a lot of people will be shaking in their boots.
I'm telling you. And then not only that, what I wanted to say, I remember I told you that from going forward, you can hear less shootings rather than the second half. The second half is going to be less shootings. That's my prediction. Elections is coming up. We need to clean up this up. And we need to make some arrests. Some big arrests. You can hear about some couple random busts coming up shortly. We're either to confiscate some weapons or what. You can hear about some random things happening shortly. And it's going to we'll be cracking on. We're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Let's look at this here from a business perspective, right? If you had a business, wouldn't you want influencers to then help you succeed within your business? If you can get people who could influence people to come into your store,
yes,
would you not then support those influencers? So look at it this way. Elections is coming up. And I need certain people from certain neighborhoods to enhance my numbers. Who am I going to go to? Not really the church, sorry to say, because the church is dead. I'm sorry to say. So who am I going to go to? I'm going to go to the gangsters and then get the people who run certain organizations within the community. The new community leaders, as they call themselves. So I go to these new community leaders and I say, all right, cool, this is what I want. This is what we're looking to do coming up election time. I need XYZ votes. What are you going to do for me? All right, cool. That's no problem. But this is what we need in return. XYZ in return. And then certain hands are shake. And then certain things are done. Election time is coming up. When election time comes up, you tend to see the majority of the times that there's less violence going on within Barbados. Yeah, there can be one or two people angry on the lower chain, are probably getting a fight here or there, or probably a little stabbing in tongue or whatever the case is over argument or something, minor. But on the macro, mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm,
You
you're not
know,
gonna see it.
the election portion of it's really major for a lot of for a lot of people, and some people believe they can't win without the blocks. They can win without those gangs. And that is what I believe, I've been told Owen Arthur was concerned about. It's, there, I tell you, I mean, this is one of the issues that he had, one of the concerns that he had, that Barbados would not become like Jamaica, where our elections were taken over by gangs, or run by gangs, or where people would be intimidated because if they don't vote for such persons, then they're afraid of that particular gang, etc. They take over communities, etc. And there were some politicians that were trying to go down that road. And I remember, I was briefed about that Mr. Owen Arthur was very much against that kind of politics, and said that's the road that we do not want to go down on. And I don't know if you remember Sonia Brown. I don't know. You remember Sonia Brown stood up in Parliament, and she
Yep.
was against this working with the bloc. She was against it completely. And she's one politician I know that she's against that. She's gone on the books by saying that she's against trying to legitimize what happens in some of these instances, and I think that it is so important, very, very, very important that people understand the role that they can play, and look out for it at election time, and pray that it doesn't engulf Barbados, because a lot of politicians, they reach for the blocks. You see,
They
when
do.
people want to win, when they want to win, Zico, a lot of people, if they have no integrity, they do anything to win.
You're desperate.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
remember. I
yeah.
remember when the first times I ever received money, and this was even before he could have voted. I never forget this. Here, it was a particular politician. He came and he went to the a particular boss in Christchurch area, and he went with a bag. And never forget this. I was a little boy just on the block hanging around chilling. I wasn't even old enough to vote, and he came and he dropped the bag, and he told the big man on the block, "Make it happen." I got back in his car and left. I got money. I wasn't even eligible to vote, and I got money. I got money. Money was given away, like, and I got money. I would never forget that. And it was like, this is really how it is for sure. This is how it is. Yeah, and majority of the times I know this is what happens within the streets. It is given directly. That's how most people don't come up, because most people either don't change their lifestyle and come and speak upon it. But the majority of the times, that's what tends to happen. You come, you drop a bag, and things are and make things happen. Sometimes they may be discouraged as man, we just gain them money so they can transport, the disabled to and forward from the come on, let me be real. And they don't think people is be transparent enough or be honest enough to come out and say. A lot of people fear a lot of things. I mean, like, honestly, for me, I am very fearless. I was fearless then, I can be very fearless now, and they can speak the truth. And the truth is, elections is coming up. And right now, there's going to be a monopoly, because right now you want to make it seem like you're cracking on crime. You got control of the whole situation. Things gonna lessen up, and right now you now got the pulse of the nation in your hands, because you know for sure you can make anything happen from a legitimate or illegitimate standpoint.
Yep. Because you have those that are remaining. The ones that are remaining are the ones
Correct.
that are going to make it. As you say, they drop the bag of money on the block and they say, make it happen. You see, and they don't realize that when you give that kind of money, what happens? These guys, they go out and they buy more weapons with it, don't they?
They
You
do.
know, they go and they buy more weapons, and they get they expand. They expand, and so all of that happens at election time. This is how they grew in Jamaica. You know, the money flowed at election time.
Anybody who knows it. In Barbados, especially when we're talking about the older heads, you had the ones that was on the streets for a very, very, very long time. The ones who did very little prison, the ones who've been on top for a very long time. I noticed for I was under a particular, I won't say under, but it was around a particular gang leader. And every time before the police came and raid the block, he got a phone call.